right, so I'm going to set a mood for this presentation. So please forgive me, it's going to be almost 5 minutes long, and then we can jump into it.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I'm gonna go do the dishes.
Cool.
It'd be nice if you helped me.
No problem. We're gonna a little bit later. I'm just gonna hit the streets here for a little bit.
Gary, come on. I don't want to do them later. Let's just do them now. Take 15 minutes.
Oh, honey, I am so exhausted. I just honestly want to relax for a little bit. If I could just sit here, let my food digest, and just try to enjoy the quiet for a little bit. Get some. That's what happens. And we will, we can clean the dishes tomorrow.
Gary, I don't like waking up to a dirty kitchen.
Who cares?
I care, all right? I care. I busted my ass all day cleaning this house and then cooking that meal, and I worked today. It would be nice if you said thank you and helped me with the dishes.
Fine. I'll help you do the damn dishes.
Oh, come on. You know what? No, that's not what I want.
You just said that you want me to help you do the dishes.
I want you to want to do the dishes.
Why would I want to do dishes? Why?
See, that's my whole point.
Let me see if I'm following this, okay? Are you telling me that you're upset because I don't have a strong desire to clean dishes?
No, I'm upset because you don't have a strong desire to offer to do the dishes.
I just did.
After I asked you.
Jesus, Brooke, you're acting crazy again.
Don't you call me crazy. I am not crazy.
I didn't call you crazy.
Just
I didn't
did.
call you crazy. No, I didn't. I said you're acting crazy.
You know what, Gary? I asked you to do one thing today, one very simple thing, to bring me 12 lemons, and you brought me 3.
God damn it. If I knew that it was going to be this much trouble, I would have brought home 24 lemons. Even 100 lemons. I know what I wish? I wish everyone that was at that goddamn table had their own little private bag of lemons.
Gary, it's not about the lemons.
Well, that's all you're talking about.
I'm just saying it'd be nice if you did things that I asked. It would be even nicer if you did things without me having to ask you.
Well, I do seem to remember doing something for you this morning without you asking.
Gary, come on.
I'm
you
serious.
know what? No,
Come
I'm
here.
serious. I really am. Come on, you knew I was working today and I made that meal, and you could have thought to yourself, you know what, you could have said, I think I'm going to get Brooke some flowers.
You said on our very first date that you don't like flowers, that they're a waste of money.
Every girl likes flowers, Gary.
You say that you don't like flowers. I'm supposed to take that to mean that you do like flowers?
No, this is not about, you're not getting it. You're not getting this, Gary. Okay, it's not about the lemons. It's not about the flowers. It's not about the dishes. It's just, how many times do I have to drop hints about the ballet?
You know I can't Brooke, come here. We talked about the damn ballet. I hate the goddamn ballet. You got a bunch of dudes in tights flopping around for 3 hours. It's like a medieval techno show. It's a nightmare. I sit there in the sweat. The whole thing. I do. Wondering when the hell's the goddamn nightmare gonna end? Go to a damn ballet.
It's not about you loving the ballet, Gary. It's about the person that you love loves the ballet, and you wanting to spend time with that person.
Not when they're at the ballet?
Okay, forget the ballet. Forget the ballet. We don't go anywhere together.
We just went to Ann Arbor together.
To Ann Arbor. To the Michigan Notre Dame game. You think screaming drunk kids and leprechauns doing backflips, that's fun. That's fun for me. Come on, man. I did that for you. How do you show up for me?
I'm up on the bus every goddamn day for you.
Come on.
I'm busting my ass to be the best tour guide in the damn city so I can make enough money to support both of us, and hopefully you won't have to work one day.
I want to work.
All I ask, Brooke, is that you show a little bit of appreciation, that I just get 20 minutes to relax when I come home instead of being attacked with questions and nag the whole damn time.
You think that I nag you?
That's all you do. All you do is nag me. The bathroom's a mess. Your belt doesn't match. Hey, Gary, you should probably go work out. Nothing I ever do is ever good enough. I just want to be left the hell alone.
Really? Is that what you want, Gary? Is that what you want?
Yeah.
That's what you want?
Yeah.
Fine, great. Do whatever the hell you want. You leave your socks all over this house, dress like a pig, play your stupid-ass video game. I don't care. I'm done.
What?
I am done. I don't deserve this. I really do not deserve this. I deserve somebody who gives a shit. I'm not spending one more second of this life with some inconsiderate prick. You're a prick.
Thinking we start cutting carbs.
There's Tara behind me. This is really us in Charleston. I think we're in Charleston. And I'm really leading the boat the wrong way in this picture, but look how confident I am. So yeah, again, I'm a marriage and family therapist. I'm an Austinite, fun fact. And I am a queer person. I'm half Puerto Rican, a quarter Lebanese, part Texan, and I've got a lot going on, as we all do. So yeah, this is just a rundown, and it's probably not in order because I also have ADHD. Okay, so we're gonna talk about sex, relationships, and money, and they're all really tied together. So I really want y'all to think about sex and money interchangeably. And as I was like putting this presentation together, I was just like, yeah, I mean, they're pretty much hand in hand in a lot of different ways. So we'll get into that. Okay, how do I go forward? How do go down here?
Click the slide.
I have not given a presentation since grad school in 2018.
You didn't see it.
Okay. Okay, so marriage and family therapy. We treat conditions, psychological, emotional, relational problems, depression, anxiety, all of those things, financial difficulties, kid issues, parenting issues, grief and loss, work and school, body image, sexual wellness, burnout. I love how I put up burnout at the end of this list because I was burnt out of all the things that happen in therapy, right? So, but we recognize that human behavior is shaped by family, social and cultural contexts. Our understanding encompasses the interplay of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors across individual, family, community, societal, and global systems. So this is like where I come from as an MFT. I come from a social justice standpoint. That's another reason why Black Barn was so attractive to us, because the women's rights and equity, that's huge, right? So we consider all these factors that influence power dynamics within couples, families, and communities. And we actively, not just me challenging my clients, but together we challenge the structures and systems of oppression and that perpetuate individual and family issues. So it's a lot, right? We've got racism, where you come from, language barriers, sexual orientation, spirituality, gender, social class, abilities, different abilities, and all the things that affect us as a human being. I consider all of that, right? It all impacts how we function as a human, at what drives us, whether consciously or subconsciously. These are my clients, Taylor and Travis, and some other attractive folks on the right.
Tell them hi for us.
I know, right? I wish, oh God. So sex, a lot of people get confused about what sex therapy is. Like, do you touch the clients or not? No, we don't, but I do teach about touching. But it's talk therapy, and we're focused on sexual health, enhancing intimacy in multiple ways, and strengthening relationships. We use evidence-based treatments to improve sex lives that impact everything. I'm very pleasure focused, not orgasm focused. I want to point that out, and overall satisfaction in a relationship. And the factors can be medical, right? If it's vaginal pain, endometriosis, erectile dysfunction, that's a whole beast of a topic. Psychological, personal, or interpersonal. So just a little background on where I'm coming from. Oh, and there's what we just did. So what's intimacy? Because a big part of this is all about intimacy. Like, how we talk about money requires vulnerability. So I wanted to break down intimacy, and I think a beautiful way is into me see. At its core, into me see speaks to the desire for genuine understanding and deep emotional connection. and expressing the longing to be fully known, accepted, and cherished by our partners. Yep, we did. Here again. Okay, cool. Winston 2.0 something the job right now. Presentation. Okay. Ah, yes. Okay, cool. So emotional, sexual, and financial intimacy, right? Emotional intimacy, this is the closeness, like we want to validate, we want to empathize with each other. I bolded some key words that you're gonna see throughout any kind of intimacy, right? Does it feel safe? Safe enough to be vulnerable, without judgment and rejection? Sexual intimacy, same thing. This just includes physical acts, unless you're an energetic type of sexual being who doesn't require any kind of actual physical touch. You could just get off by like energy, which is pretty cool. And that's a whole other conversation, right? I did want to note that sex is not just intercourse. I think that when folks talk about sex, it's very heteronormative, and we're talking penis and vagina. That is not what sex is. Sex is whatever you define for yourself, and also what you have learned and unlearned in your life that feels good for you. So not just penis and vagina. We don't need a penis for sex, because you can do that on your own, and that's also sex. Financial intimacy, being able to discuss money matters again without judgment, fear, hidden agendas, aligning financial goals, being transparent about debts and assets, and jointly navigating, or it doesn't have to be jointly, but there can be a transparent agreement of, hey, I want to be with you, but I want to do finances independently of you. And that's still transparency, right? It's not just about like just joining everything together, right? And then celebrating milestones that life throws your way. And I think, and that celebration, and I didn't write that in here, but that's coming up for me right now, can be a part of all of this, all this wonderful intimacy. Any questions before I move on? No? Good. Okay. So let's take this time, a couple minutes to circle what money means to you. So take a look at it, if everybody can see this. Pick one or two, and then talk amongst yourselves, and then we'll check in a couple minutes.
Come on over. I'm here. Security. Yes. I'm having trouble. I think so. Yeah. Right. I don't think meaning. The shower. Very balanced lately for me, and this.
I think that's what's your name?
What's the other? I wonder what's the other.
We're
new to, are you new to the other? Yeah. What's another? Where the hard study.
Our I think is not going to take it. Like every level.
I wonder if it could be like, it's actually like y'all, like right. Yeah. With freedom. I feel like it's a little
And
bit
not
to be.
feel much.
Yeah. I can tell you, for me, it's security and freedom.
Experience.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's
So
also
that's
being
it.
kind of.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's
It's
not
not
big
things,
power.
yeah, I think
I
that
had
we
to say
say
this too, but then I was a conservative role.
it feels.
I've been in situations where it's been survival, so I take pictures free and then.
Yeah, that's an interesting back and
Okay, security.
that's such a cool, there's tension there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's both, it's both valid. And those are very powerful, yeah.
I want to use them
Yeah.
so that I can just. I don't usually ask. I guess curious, like, did she have money? Because you can say what she was, she's an investor, really, you know.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Like, my considers, and then my ex is like. There's like a jail.
That's not how I saw it.
But yeah, she was saying, I was like, oh, yeah, I can't believe this works for. So it's like, I think it's like,
Yeah, yeah.
like, that's the goal to. To,
That's one reason why.
even
Well, I mean,
wages
or
are
it's
not-
always Yeah, like how do you?
Yeah, I
The star
It,
there.
I would
So
ask,
you're not a
you know,
star,
if
you're
you're
leaving.
Having it going.
go deeper about like, what's that about, is this about like acceptance?
No matter.
Things like that, like approval.
Maybe.
Yeah. Gender type of.
Even though, like, yeah, I mean, I'm just like, out here, like,
That would even hear.
like this version. Since I don't even.
One's my.
That's why. We had talking to someone who's there.
Yes.
Oh, like, there's a limit.
Yeah,
It's not-
yeah.
it's really- So it feels, it's starting to feel like, oh, well, how much is me?
Mhm.
Because my, just.
Biggest power of love.
Yeah.
Your favorite.
Yeah.
Show your.
So many different ways to interpret freedom too, right?
Yeah, I label money as a strategy.
Eight.
People who disinherit.
How are people online doing?
Right?
I guess I should answer the question.
Or to show favor with one child or a different child.
It's one.
Yeah, freedom,
You're bad,
taking care of family, survival.
Right, and so I know people.
You know, because I think of, so freedom, I want my freedom to, it's also tied into security. Of like, okay, I'm gonna be okay, like, I wanna make sure that also my love, so it's kind of like, if I can draw a line right here, I also wanna be able to take care of like my loved ones. Especially like my mother, who doesn't,
Like some reason.
is financially challenged in a lot of ways. So like her health, and so I wanna, do I have enough emergency funding for myself? Or
be like, I feel like that is
family.
like my
Yeah,
values.
and so.
Are
yeah, exactly.
in contrast in a way that makes us.
And a lawyer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Like,
but so I think
I
it's
feel
just like,
like my lack of
Yeah.
freedom around that.
Yeah.
Like I have a hard time being free in myself, in my relationship.
Hear from anybody that.
In relationships with people like that.
Are you feeling disrespected?
They're judged, looked down upon, and then I'm like, I keep doing this, I will not, jump in hoops to qualify for you in your standards, and then I'm like, oh, I just have to do it to myself.
Yeah.
It's just like what I think of.
yeah.
You're not doing it.
Yeah.
You know,
And a way of
so-
providing love, like, I know a lot of people doing that, they're just like, well, I provided for my kids' college, and that was my way of showing love. And they're just like, what? I needed you to hug me more.
Yeah. Like, you should maybe come out.
Exactly, yes, yeah. So, yeah, it's really interesting. And I think
So
it's
you
all
can talk about.
interconnected on some way. Yeah.
Mm.
Okay, shall I check in?
I
All right, y'all. How are we doing? Just checking in?
Somebody, if you give money to somebody, you feel loved for yourself. Like.
Oh,
I feel loved in myself because I help somebody. Your core values.
yeah, I know.
So that's what I oppose you saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yes.
So you might have a certain culture where you and your slide left out.
All right. So let's go around. What each group, what were we discussing?
7th grade.
Yeah.
He like made like the best point ever. So, like, I was just saying, like, meeting my husband, were like, money to us or to me is like security, knowing like, oh, I have 6 months, like my security. His is like, he can never have enough, but like, you have 6 months saved, like I have my own business, like, oh, I have like, 20K saved in case I need to get a new camera, and I knew like, everything's got, I mean, I have insurance, but like, just in case.
Yeah,
Yep. But like, one of our family members is, they love buying like name brands, and like, I look at like the stuff that they have, and I'm like, oh, that, that item is like $10,000, and that could have been used differently. So it's like an interesting way people, like me and my husband are like, oh, should we take that like $2,000 trip to Charleston? And then we see someone that's like, oh, I can just blow. Like, or not blow,
what's important to them, right, without judgment.
Without judgment.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just interesting, like how, and that's one reason why like I come to this class, to learn like different ways.
Yeah.
In your little like nook of like a couple bubble or whatever, it's like,
Yeah,
all you think is like, oh, I think, do money stuff. Like,
yeah, that's great, thank you. What else?
I mean, I think one of the things that it's always meant to me is that I'm kind of taking like security, freedom, and power with a little muscle arm and putting them into like an independence like phrase, right?
Oh, I love
Like
that.
independence, right? Which is, I feel like a little bit of all those things. It's like no one else gets to make like choices on my behalf if I have those three things,
Yeah.
right? And that's like from my very earliest days, like what it's always been, which causes friction when that's not the same priority for other people or around you.
Yeah. We were having a similar conversation of, well, it's hard to find just one thing because they're kind of all interconnected. But it's like we all three defined like freedom in different ways that have been personal for us. Do you want to share your example?
Oh, sure. So I was pretty insistent with my parents that I not receive funds for college, that I put myself through college. And that to me was just going to ensure that I never felt indebted to them in that way, that they couldn't, tell me what to do in terms of what I was going to study, what I would pursue during school, after school. So that ended up being a difficult experience, but I think the right one, because for me, yeah, freedom and power were really my meanings of money.
Yeah. Lori.
So
I know, I'm a tongue.
mine was success. Basically, how much money can you save up and have? And that's like a measure of success. And I think that's because my dad was a big saver and
Like a scorecard almost, or like a score, like in a game.
Yeah. And then freedom, which is sort of shifting to freedom because now that I'm nominally retired, it's like, oh, before when I had a job and money was coming in, it wasn't as hard to make a decision about like, what do you want to spend your money on? Now it's like, oh, it's a very limited amount. And so it's like, now do I have the same freedom to do what I want to do? Or do I have to change my plans?
Interesting.
It's just my suggestion that this is a relatively sanitized question, given the topic of our meeting. I would suggest that really, at its core, what gives you problems about money? And I mentioned this issue of love and the fact that I had come here because, for this specific meeting, because I have a great deal of trouble in not wanting to help people, whether it's my family or friend, with money. And then I get very angry with myself because I have no business giving people this amount. I mean, it's not little money that I give people. I give people a lot of money. I give my son the equivalent of a Mercedes, a Lexus. And not asking for it back, not asking for more love, wasn't that I was asking him to love me more, but it was more that I needed to do whatever he needed. And similarly with a friend, he doesn't have much money, but I really wanted him to come on this trip and experience these wonderful things with me. And now I'm angry because, really, he should have been man enough to at least attempt to begin to pay me back.
And that's loaded right there.
So it's not so much the meaning of money, but the problem of money.
Yes, absolutely.
And so,
Yes.
I'm just saying this is a difficult, I just wanna,
Yeah.
I'm transparent person.
I appreciate that feedback. I appreciate that feedback. We're just getting her to the end, right? So
This is the hardest part of this.
I know.
You know what, that's why I don't date.
Oh boy. Well, then maybe I should skip the statistics slide. How are we doing? Okay, great. Okay. I appreciate that. Okay, so here's some statistics. I don't know how helpful statistics is when it comes to my job. I know it might for y'all, but I'm just gonna throw this out there. What is it? So we know that sex and money, those are like top reasons for divorce, okay, and separations, whether you're married or not. Sexless marriage is usually defined as less than 6 times per year. Sometimes it's been brought into less than 10 times per year. 40 to 60% of long-term relationships are sexless. I said this is very common and you are normal. However, if sex and money are causing a strain in your relationship, it's time to take a deeper dive. This is when therapy is highly recommended. Whether it's individual or couples because you could just go all in. And 74.2% of sexless marriages end in divorce. 77% of those in sexless marriages say they would want more sex. And that's a very tough thing to treat because we're also dealing with different levels of desire and all of these things that people are not talking about and haven't talked about throughout the entirety of their relationship. Money. This is widely known as the leading cause of divorce in America. Financial issues are pretty much at the top. It just looks differently in each case. So 20 to 40% of all divorces, 4 out of every 10 marriages, give or take, end in divorce because of financial disagreements.
One's a deadbeat, the other one's a saver.
Hey, right?
Marriages, I'll tell you.
Right? Yeah, I get it. I was married before and it was very different, she had money under the bed in a shoebox and that was her savings account, and to each their own. And I handled everything else. So we were just wildly different. And that is okay for some people. You make it work, but there was no conversation around it. And I think that's a big problem. So why are we so activated? Oops, didn't want to get ahead of myself. What is this? Okay. Every time I touch things out, it moves. Okay, so family. Okay, why are we so activated? Family of origin. Y'all talked about this, and I heard a little bit of that coming from our small groups. Our values and beliefs. We're taught to not talk about it. It's taboo. Shame of social status. And that is across the board, whether you grew up poor or you grew up with wealth, financial wealth, because wealth can mean life satisfaction, things like that. But across all socioeconomic, the whole plane, there's shame involved. And shame, if anybody is a Brene Brown fan, we know that shame multiplies in silence. So that's why it's important to have a group like this so we can talk about these things out, get it out. There's also religious beliefs. whether you experience high volatility or avoidance in your family around these topics, and then you're transgenerationally, like there's a gets passed down to you, right? And then rinse and repeat. And so how do we break these patterns? So otherwise are perceived irresponsibility of our partners handling money. I used an example of me the other day. This didn't happen between me and Tara, but I did buy a lot of pillows at Target. But in my office, I hear of like, you spent what on pillows at Target? So that's coming with judgment. Then I don't feel safe. If Tara like got on my case for buying these pillows, then I'm like, shoot, I can't be vulnerable. And so this isn't feeling good to me, right? Or, you went to Vegas with the boys and you spent all this money, but you haven't bought me flowers in years. And now there's multiple things going on there, because who's getting prioritized? The boys, the partner, right? Different ideas on terms of arrangement. Should we combine finances? What does that look like, right? Prenuptial agreements is a great example of that, and preparing for that. And gridlocked conflict. So let me just break down conflict real quick. Anybody heard of John and Julie Gottman? The Gottmans? Great, awesome. Okay, so 66% of conflict is perpetual. It is not solvable. Okay. 33% is solvable. Okay. It's just like, how are we going to figure out the groceries this week or whatever? And where we get in trouble is when gridlock happens. And that's when our perpetual arguments just get stuck and aggressive and shut down. And that's what leads to divorce. If like one perpetual conflict turns gridlocked, such as money, we can't agree on whether we should have a puppy or not, or a kid, because that's another deal breaker of having children or not. When we get gridlocked, that's when we get into the danger zone. So these are like barriers to intimacy. So when you're having all this conflict, how are we going to be close? If we just fought about money, how are we going to have sex? Okay. So scripts. We have money scripts, we have sex scripts. These are all the things that we have learned. I'm breaking it down to 4 money scripts here. We've got the money avoidant. This is usually rooted in biblical terms. Money is evil, right? All wealthy people are greedy. Poor people are purer than wealthy people, better to give than receive. Money worship. Money is power, freedom. If I buy X, I'll be happy if I just get that new PlayStation, right? Status, directly connected to their own sense of self-worth, to their net worth. So it's like, I'm a piece of shit if I'm not worth $500,000, right? And then they live their life in that way, and it can be very restricting. And how can you relate with another human being, especially romantically, when you have your own this agenda leading you? Money vigilance. This is the healthiest of the scripts, but can be taken too far. So never use credit cards. Nothing you buy will ever be as good as saving. So I just want to pause there. Any thoughts, feelings that come up for money scripts? I didn't mean to land on you, Ginger.
I'll chime in a little bit
Sure.
And not being specific, but I think all of these things are things that I've heard from clients, prospective clients, people in the room, right? They're really, really common, and we don't know we're doing them, right?
Yeah.
It's all just such a basic way of the way you operate. Where you learned the script, I think is interesting when people figure out where they learned the script.
Yes.
Right? You can kind of say the same thing over and over again and live your life a certain way, but it is really interesting to kind of watch people go through this journey of self-discovery. That's like, oh, I say that because like my dad always said that. Like I'm afraid of this thing because my mom taught me this, or like these were the money stories that were passed down in our and the money scripts that were passed down in our family.
Yeah.
And everybody has them, right? And everybody is either like overly attached to them or like overly like ashamed of them.
Right, right. So you can see the polarization too. Yeah, yeah, great point.
And
great-
I'll say that's what's so essentially important for having someone like Sarah, you know, someone who's a more dimensional person. And I don't know if you have to be, you know, a woman, like, you know, women in finance just happen to be more, you know, kind of having a wider thing. Maybe because the men were just simply trained not to have a wider thing. I don't know, but I've had other men financial advisors in the past. We never went into a conversation that led me to any self-awareness.
Yeah.
All I ever did was feel smaller and smaller
Yes.
and stupider and stupider.
Oh, man.
And I'd come out of every one of those feeling very powerless. Any of those meetings. But with Sarah, I got to do that like spacious talk. I wasn't on the spot, but I was just talking about, you know, all of these values and assumptions that I, you know, was coming with. And I mean, through the process of relating with each other, that's the key.
Yeah.
That I would, and then like, you know, tools that were, I was looking at to help me. You know, I really am not, I don't have the same values that my dad instilled in me necessarily about like being so frugal that I'm not moving.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, just risk intolerance.
So when you were talking to Sarah, did you have the epiphany moment that she described? Where what you thought were absolute truths in your head, you then saw them as beliefs?
I was able to see like, I mean, and actually, because it was sort of like you're deeply listening and you're going, well, you know, you kind of like
It's kind of like one of these mind blowing
It's
ones.
interesting to be on the receiving end of this kind of.
in such a non-shaming way. It wasn't like corrective. It was, you took interest and you're listening. Anyway, it's just like, I don't know. I'm not trying to simplify the system of this, but it's like, it was really necessary for me to finally stop going to financial advisors that just wanted to talk nuts, bolts. You know, it's like.
Yeah.
That is exactly me too. When I went to Casey, I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Because a man was trying to tell me what I wanted to do, and I wanted to do different things.
Yeah.
You know, when I left, I felt like I was this small.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna leave, and then
Yeah.
Casey.
That's
Yeah,
great.
As an advisor.
I know, right? Right.
She was
Take it
in.
in.
I mean, the industry needs office with that guy. She was still with,
Oh,
I'm not gonna say the name, yeah, but I'm not gonna say the name.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
I mean, it is, the industry is, I think, slowly but meaningfully changing. Like there's a whole field of behavioral economics now where,
I just
you know,
read
they win
that
Nobel
the
prizes and things in behavioral economics.
CFP exam now has, you have to have at least 7% of the questions are about your emotional money needs.
That is
So
great.
they're getting there.
Yeah, we went like 150 years without ever talking about people's feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the last 20 years, we're like, huh. We
Fascinating.
always talked about like the rational investor, like all through like all of finance.
Like it's a thing.
There's a rational investor. This is what a rational investor will do. And like change, like just last 20 years, people are like, huh, people don't always act rationally. Really, like we all act the way we act because we all have our things.
But as you were
Yeah.
describing, like, this is what I do in my office, it felt so relevant to the conversation around relationships, because if you can believe that your beliefs are an option, they are not the only true way to be, wouldn't that make you a more open partner to whatever crazy stuff your husband's saying about never having enough.
Mm.
Well, it's just funny, like he wants to travel, right? Like,
Yeah.
for the money vigilance.
Yes,
He wants
yes.
to travel, but he doesn't want to use his credit card and go to Central Market and he gets like 3 times the points or whatever it is.
Yeah,
And then, but it's like, I keep telling him, like, you're just throwing your money away when you do your debit or your savings or your, you know, Visa card. He just doesn't like, and it's not like a Visa card, you make money card, whatever they're called.
cash back.
But it's like, when does the money vigilance go so far where it's like not healthy? You know what I mean? Like, or is it just never healthy?
That's a great
It's like-
question. Well, that's why it's like the health, when I did the bunny ears of like the healthiest, right? We can accept like, okay, that we are human beings and we evolve, hopefully, if we're willing to expand and have these conversations.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, I have this money script and Tara has this money script and we're just gonna come to the table and look at our money scripts and be like, how are we working together through this? You know, how are we coming through to a compromise where we both feel like seen and heard about it?
I feel like it just shuts me down. It makes me go into like a place where I just like, we're like never, and it's really funny, 'cause we've had this conversation where I just feel like I'm never safe, like we shouldn't be in this house, like I need to like make sure I go to like Whole Foods, because our Mary's chicken is like $2 cheaper than the HEB chicken. I
Yeah,
just feel like he's just, and then with inflation and everything going on in the generalized environment, it's just making me feel like I just don't know what to do. Like,
Yeah.
And so we booked a trip to Charleston and I was like, wow, like, we're really like doing it. Like, we're like, and we used our points and like, it's like fake money. I mean, it's not like money.
yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
like- but-
Well earned, smart.
Yeah, and he
Yeah.
did, and I told him, like, when you do it, don't do a refund, because we're really notorious about just returning things.
Oh,
Really, it's like really bad. But
it's the
then,
whole thing.
but the thing to your point, like family, like his mom will come and she always says this. I know she's coming tomorrow. And she'll be like, I worked really hard to get you those like Air Jordans when you were like 8 years old. I'm like,
Ooh,
I'm thinking like he was like 8. He didn't really know. Like it was just like it was,
right.
But she constantly always, and she's a single mom, and you know, in Victoria, Texas.
Yeah,
That, like,
absolutely.
doesn't have the resources, but it's interesting where you have a 43-year-old that still feels like
Yeah.
it's like a bad, I don't know, it's weird.
That's what I was talking about with like, it's where it's an opportunity to unlearn a lot of the things, right? Having the courage to see what's happening and then unlearn and learn for yourself of like what this means. I mean, this goes for politics too, right? Because if you grow up in a certain type of family, that belief system is ingrained in you. And so it's hard to look out of ourselves to create change. Yeah.
You mentioned, I think 60% of this type of, maybe I misheard, and please correct me.
Sure.
60% or an equivalently high number of these type of conflicts or disagreements. You don't solve, they maintain this type of.
They're perpetual.
gridlock. Well, that doesn't give me a lot of hope for learning.
Well,
Unlearning the script, or at least I'm trying to understand somebody's a script, because right now I'm in a position where I'm not going to be able to understand another person's script. I like my script.
that's great. That's it. I love that confidence. The difference is, look, 66% of conflict is unsolvable, meaning like we might not just get to a resolution, but what we can do is just navigate it in a healthy way. It's when the perpetual problem turns gridlocked and stuck and it gets ugly. So just sidebar, Gottman education real quick, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, okay? That's criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, and contempt. Contempt is criticism on steroids. And when these show up, it shows up in every relationship, but that's when you know if that's continual, we're in gridlock. And so we've got to battle it, like, you know. Does that give you a little bit more hope?
sure, I don't feel like I'm on either of those four legs, so to speak.
Okay.
Hope I'm not kind of an ugly person.
We're all capable of doing it. We're gonna get defensive about things. That's what I'm saying. It's just, this is us as human beings, you
Right.
know?
So I just wanted to mention that my husband and I, I'm very proud of us. We have come to, for ourselves, discover the way to manage or navigate the unsolvables
Mm,
is with just humor. We just laugh
yes,
when it comes up.
yes.
Not every time, but often enough that's the way that we reconnect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's getting easier and easier.
I love that.
Yeah.
And did you change the goal from I'm gonna make him agree with me to we're gonna connect?
Oh
This is my co-therapist in the house.
And that was my learning, because he's not as,
You just brought him along.
he's not as proud in a way as I am, in that way of like like thinking I'm right. I mean, he's like, I've been torn down so much and humiliated that I don't think I'm right.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh God, I'm the one.
Oh, I love the honesty.
Yeah, so we've been helping each other.
That's great. Yeah, and also,
He gets to be right sometimes, which is surprising.
and I would.
I'm not only joking.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be or need to be.
Yeah,
It makes
like
it
we
easier.
both realize in the moment that there's no argument. He actually is right, the one that's right and about something, and it's like really good for him.
There you go.
Yeah.
See? It looks different for everybody. I have to say a lot, like, do you want to be right or do you want to be married? Because people get into it in session and I'm just like, whoa, we're in right or wrong territory. Okay, good. Thank you for sharing. Okay, sexual scripts that we need to let go of. Sex happens naturally. Desire should be spontaneous. Okay, there's responsive and spontaneous desire. So responsive is more likely among long-term relationships. Okay, like this is scheduled sex, y'all. Like, yes, we're gonna put it on the calendar, like we put our doctor's appointments, like we put this meeting on the calendar, because we're prioritizing it, just like financial conversations. It's wrong to be attracted to others when you enter a relationship. Okay, we're human beings. It's not okay to not feel like or not want sex. That's totally fine if you don't want to have sex. How are we communicating that to our partners in a non-rejecting way? So we want to have sexual empathy with our partners of like, hey baby, thank you so much. I find you very attractive. I appreciate the compliments. Not right now. I'm in the middle of this PowerPoint. Maybe later. Maybe later, okay? Because you're important to me, right? I already went over penetrative sex. That's not the main course. We need to get more creative. Pleasure is the measure, to quote Dr. Emily Nagoski. An orgasm is necessary for a pleasurable sexual encounter? Absolutely not. The most attractive bodies are thin, white, cis, and non-disabled bodies. So we just need to squash these ideas, right? So yeah, any questions about that? Just this list with sexuality and these scripts.
I think it's interesting to see money scripts and sexual scripts listed next to each other and notice how equally difficult it has been to let go of any of them, either of them.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's why I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna tackle these beasts, but it's all intertwined. And women, folks who identify as women, have had to go through the ringer with all of this, like financially, sexually, consensually. Like we what is consent? Where are we taking where can we get our power? You know, because we didn't have a lot of rights and power.
Yeah.
Historically. And so, you know, it's like 2024 and we're having these conversations. And so, yeah. So I want to thank you for bringing that up because yeah, it was hard. I was just like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
So I'll mention also that our, like, my husband and I met in our early 40s and, so now we're in our 50s and, you know, we've been married before and, you know, but meeting like at that time and then like things change. People, sexuality and everything changes.
Yes.
Between early 40s and early to mid 50s.
Oh yeah.
It's just, you know, and it's like, oh, well, we've never been here before. And when we met, you know, it was like, you know, like almost like being teenagers again, you know, because it's like, finally someone that, you know, really into and it's great. And then it's like, wow, there's a whole lot of life that's going on that is different than when we were younger people with a different sexual drive than we are now. Like, it's just an evolving system.
Yes, it is.
And so, I find like even the topic of, you know, whether like, there's always like advice about how much sex people should be having. And it's like, I don't think that is a thing. Like,
Right.
It makes sense because people should be like honest, but I think the most important thing is being able to actually be honest with each other about it, like to talk.
Yes. And
in certain ways,
talking about
is it's not like, oh, I'm being turned on because we're talking about it, but it's more like, oh, we're connecting.
It's positive. It's a positive experience.
Yeah.
And according to the Gottmans, like every positive experience you have with your partner is foreplay.
Yeah.
You know, and folks who talk about sex more often have sex more often. But you are onto something because it's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. Are we having the sex worth wanting? Is that something that we want to like go towards, right? Or do we need to mix it up because we are novel creatures? So, you know, and we get bored, right? Especially over long-term relationships too.
I really like what you said, Ginger, when you said we've never been here before, right? Like, you're going through relationships, right? Or as you're going through like relationships with on the money side too. And listening to Deanna, you talk about your kind of conversations you have with clients, thinking about like money conversations I have with clients. One of the most common questions that I get is like, how are we normal compared to other people? Right? Like you can't, I mean, unless you're here, right? Like you don't get a sense from your peer group, like,
Is there normal?
No, there's no, right, but it comes back to like.
If we're all the same, it would be awful.
It comes back to like,
Right.
Are you?
It would be awful, but hello.
Yeah, are you on your own journey and your own?
We're not robots.
Right, either, but there's something, I don't know, like there's something in most people where it's like, oh, just tell me that it's like, tell me I'm okay.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You know, like whatever I'm doing, is it normal? Is it on track? Is it better, worse, the same as everyone else that they're trying to get feedback on in a conversation that's very difficult to survey people around you, right? Either with sex or money. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's like on my last slide is like, I know, overachiever over here, right? Because we get into that compare and despair trap. And so and that's hard to break out of, but it's a real feeling. Am I broken? Because like folks come to me with their menopause, right? Vaginal dryness is real. And so they want sex, but they can't because it hurts. Am I broken? That feeling of brokenness. Am I normal? Like, because they're not talking about it with anybody. And so I'm like, yes, you are normal. You are not broken. You are okay. I mean, same things with any kind of like mental health stuff. Like, am I crazy? Deanna, tell me if I'm crazy. And I'm like, we're all crazy. Breaking news, sand at the beach. We're all crazy. We're all a little bit crazy, right? But yeah, thank you for that input, Sarah. And Ginger. Okay, more cards. How are we doing? We're doing great on time. Okay, I was worried about this. Can people online see these cards? Because I can pass these out to the group here.
We
It's-
can probably pick, they can see the,
They can, yeah, and they can like pick
Yeah.
some of the cards, and if you want to like pass some around. And then we'll do our little small groups and then chat about it.
Yes.
What are your reasons for having or not having cleanup? Just look at your group over here, so we can make a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Come on over. Reasons for cleanup, I have reasons not.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
So that's a reason not to bring up. There's not a reason. Yeah. Oh, that's not like my looking out at life, someone like how would you spend into savings and feeling threatened about this?
What does it say?
Are we ready to have a conversation? All right.
Right, a male planner would just say, yeah, that's incorrect. Yeah.
And shove y'all out there.
But it is true. Not many. Just
The ones who are ready in the back?
Actually, I don't think we went around line. The other side?
Or-
Questions before marriage or moving in?
Oh, I didn't even see that.
I know, but see, yeah, we should be having these questions before we start a relationship. But usually that's not the case.
For marriage or moving in or at a wedding?
Yeah.
Has that been a defining decade, like I'm assuming?
I haven't.
I
Wait, no,
said-
I
I
have.
was talking to
No,
about this in the
that's-
office the other day, and there's a whole list of questions. I was like, you have to read it.
Wait, I have read it. That's the white chick. What's her name? Oh my God, I know her.
She's also like a therapist,
Me-
but and it's based on like her clients, but it's like about being in your 20s and like.
That's the defining decade. Yeah, I know. I've recommended that book to clients. I have read it and it has pissed a lot of my clients off. Because, yeah, I know, it's good. She has a lot of great things to say. And,
Maybe you read it younger.
huh?
Like the younger you read it.
I think so. I think maybe all the demographics, it wasn't all inclusive. And that's a hard thing to do with any kind of book if you venture in that world, but it is a great book. That's in your office. What is her name? Meg? like-
No, Miller had just, she'd recommended it to me, so I was gonna look it up. And
I think it's worth the read.
yeah,
It's
the
definitely
author has a
worth
TED
it.
talk as well.
And that's one of the questions that's in it? Is that what triggered your?
Just this whole conversation, like the questions are on money and like, but it like
Meg
talks about.
Meg J. I knew it was like a Meg.
Career, love,
Mhm.
like financials and like questions to talk about your partner with.
Yes.
Before you're like together.
Yes.
It's too late.
It's not too
It's never, the future is now. The future is now.
Practice is based on the premise that it's not too late.
It's exactly. It's not too late.
Years left to get stuff figured out. It's not too late.
Okay. So, okay, where were we in the conversation? Oh, no, you're good, Miller.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
The question was what to ask or what to talk about before you move in together, married? Was that the question? Did someone just say?
What did y'all?
You're reading the title of the part.
Oh, don't read the title.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh my
We
goodness.
have one about peanuts. Yeah, that's the guy.
That's the one.
The prenup.
Yeah.
What's your opinion? What are reasons to prenup or not do a prenuptial agreement? And we didn't really have strong reasons in either direction, but we thought it was great to have a prenup conversation.
Mhm.
Just
Mhm.
to have
Everyone
the
be on the same,
conversation.
yeah, have everyone be on the same page about yes or no.
Yeah,
Like, what are they for? What are they not for? Do we want one? Do we not want one? And be making them as a couple, having those conversations as a couple instead of having like maybe like the stereotypical, like one person who delivers a prenup. to another
right,
person.
right,
Yes.
right.
Right.
That can be traumatic.
That's a precursor for the whole marriage. Right.
And that can, we were talking about power dynamics
right.
here, and that's a power move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My parents wanted me to give you this.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, yeah. And thinking meta, right? Like we want to even talk about how we're talking about these things. That's super important. Okay. Are we doing over here? Okay. Okay. How are we going to get through all of this stuff? Taking an us against the problem mindset. Be a team. So when we are fighting over something, like we need to just stop and be like, whoa, what iceberg did we just hit? Because it's usually way more than, again, the dishes, and get curious. And moving on to that second item of money can be emotional. So let's get curious about your partner's like relationships with money. Because we want to lead to financial harmony. That's the goal. But yeah, going back to the iceberg thing, right? When we're like wandering around our days with our people, and this could be friendships, this could be our parents, whatever. But when we run into conflict and things feel tense, we just hit an iceberg. Stop, get curious. What is usually underneath are unmet needs. Somebody has a dream, a belief system, an unmet need, and they're not feeling seen. So that's why we have to take a time out, take a lap, whatever you need to do to get grounded, regulate, and then let's come back to it so that we can be on the same page and try to get on the same page, because it's us against the issue. Okay. So again, going into, it's not about the money, sex, or dishes. That's not what we're fighting about. It's dreams, fears, insecurities. What did I write? How do I move this? Oh, look at that. New laptop to build. Okay. Yeah. So money to some may represent security, freedom, and opportunity to achieve your dreams. So like digging deeper, everything that we've been covering so far, right? That's the purpose of these questions, is just to dig deeper within ourselves so that we're able to have these conversations with people that we love and care about. Creating just solution focusing things like creating a financial and sexual vision. I will never stop emphasizing the importance of prioritization. What are we prioritizing in our relationships? If we know that the statistics are that sex and money are trying to destroy us against the problem, then we need to unite and prioritize these conversations, right? So this is just research, right? Long, hard work research from all of the great therapists and psychologists. Couples who prioritize just talking about sex and money have longer, healthier, and satisfying relationships. Overall relationship satisfaction. Understand and accept that there will be differences and challenges. This is not about who's right and who's wrong. And again, do you want to be right or do you want to be married, partnered, whatever? I know I'm using marriage a lot. This is, if you're anti-marriage, cool, no big deal. Once we dive deeper, we can make a plan. Let's budget, set up a system that fits both of your needs. This is where we come to the table. We have a Marriage Inc. meeting. There are check-ins. Gwen and I talked about, and Lori talked about having a check-in every week, but that's like how our relationship is going. What did we do well? It's kind of like a business meeting, right? But it's not. This is more emotional. So you want to have a check-in of like, what did we do well? Express some gratitude, and what are areas of improvement, right? That's just relational. And then on the money side, that's when we have the Marriage Inc. meeting of like, yo, let's put some numbers out. How much did we spend on the HEB bill? Do we have to buy those avocados this next time around? You know, and kind of take the emotions out of it, right? And it comes with practice too, because God only knows people fight over the avocados. Okay. Oh, yes, budget, set up a system and see a financial advisor. Okay, so, you know, mad props, Black Barn.
Black Barn.
Yes, represent.
Trained financial therapists.
Or, yes, yes. Mhm. Yes,
Financial advisors have better marriages.
Oh.
that's a great
It
question.
depends on like their money attitudes or I don't know.
Or you like the plumber that has leaky
I
pipes.
know, or yeah, I don't know.
What? Leaky pipes.
I don't know. I don't know if there's statistics on that. That'd be interesting to know though.
Well, it's
Mhm.
like doctors, you know, doctors say, oh, do this, that, and they go get a cigarette.
Right,
Yes,
yeah.
Oh, I know, yeah. Well, this is why it's important for therapists to have therapists.
Right.
I mean, you don't wanna have, like, you don't wanna see a therapist who's not seeing a therapist. So if you're interviewing for a therapist, ask about themselves.
That's kind of interesting, because it's probably like, if this type of relationship with a financial advisor is important, it's probably relatively important that your financial advisor also sees a therapist. Does your
Yeah.
advisor like understand
Mhm.
the questions that a therapist asks?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does everybody here have a therapist?
Yes.
Yeah. You do, you do.
You don't have to have one
Well, you're
every
too
day.
young. Or.
You're never too young for a therapist at all.
But I just had, this is funny, I had a great therapist for so long, and then during the pandemic, I couldn't contact her. I don't know, she did not die, but I never heard back from her.
Mm.
And when I reached out a couple times, so I was just like, because I hadn't talked to her in a few years, and I guess whatever. And so I was like, well, I guess this is the universe saying she's not my therapist anymore, moving on.
Well,
And
she wasn't following
I
protocol.
dropped the ball on trying to find a therapist. I mean, I think she's okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, I dropped the ball, and then recently I was like, it's really time for me to find another go-to therapist person to talk to. And so I was, you know, not in that moment searching for a therapist, but I was listening to a podcast by a friend who's local, who does great podcasts.
Awesome.
And he interviewed someone who is a therapist, and she was just telling her story, her life. She was just talking about her life. And I was like,
That's my therapist.
she's my therapist.
Oh,
And so I think narratives, like the need for narratives and for like really understanding the complexity of people. And it's like, she wasn't selling her therapy, you know, services on that podcast.
Yeah,
She just
yeah.
happened to be a therapist.
yeah.
And I contacted her and I said, this is the deal. And she said,
Oh,
that's so cool, because like my husband said, you're just planting some seeds here with this podcast. Don't you worry, whatever
Yeah.
this brings you in your life. She's like, so you came.
oh, that's beautiful. I love that,
I know.
right?
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Looking for how connections happen. It's like,
Yes.
you just
And
look
it,
for your yes. Where's the yes?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Ginger, we have a request from online for you to share the podcast name, please.
Oh, Friends with Deficits.
Awesome name.
His name is Adam Sultan.
Friends with.
Thank you.
Friends with Deficits. And Adam is a really amazing musician. He's been in some really awesome old bands, and he's meditation teacher, and he's a creative dude.
Awesome. I love that.
He's a really fun person.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thanks for asking, person online.
Yes, yes. Okay. Okay, So, control and power, I know this is very wordy.
Yes.
She's a wonderful person. Sorry.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Your therapist?
Yeah, my therapist. You just-
Hey, shout out to you can, to this wonderful
Her name is
therapist.
Amanda Wallingsford.
Okay.
She just wrote a book.
Ooh,
She's a delightful person.
awesome. Okay, spread the good word.
Yay.
Yes. Because the therapeutic relationship really is like the number one thing for like success in therapy. It's really important. It is a relationship. It's a very intimate experience. So find the right person. And there could be multiple right people. Okay. So hidden control and power issues. Thinking again about your values of cooperation. Are you collaborative, or do you value your independence and self-sufficiency more? Very often couples argue about specific decisions or topics related to money without realizing the underlying dynamic is really about who has power and influence in the relationship. There's nothing like a disagreement about financial choices to bring out deep-seated needs for control in some of us, turning us into micromanagers, anxious accountants, etc. Often, the more one person keeps close tabs on finances, the more their partner seems to lose track of receipts, spend extra on groceries, or forget to pay bills in time, because we are also rebellious creatures. And so when we feel the stress and control, then as human beings, we tend to retaliate in different ways. And that creates friction in the relationship. Knowing that the need for power / control is there, it's fear-based. And so getting to the why am I so controlling over all of the, how many avocados we're bringing home, right? Like, why does it matter? What is going on here? What am I afraid of? And that's, again, going back to therapy and doing a deep dive is really crucial, because then we're having all these silly fights together and we're fighting with our family members. It's just like, what is going on here, right? And accountability, personal accountability, what part of the conflict can we take accountability for? Because it's so easy to get defensive, point fingers, and be like, well, he did this and he bought all those kites and the wind is not even blowing, you know what I mean? And it's just like, whoa, wait a second. That's again another iceberg of like, let me pause and look at myself. Like, what am I doing here? How am I contributing to this? This is the power and control wheel. Have y'all ever seen this wheel? I would not be doing y'all justice if I didn't share this. This is with regard to domestic violence. And this is another way money and sex shows up in relationships, unfortunately. So focusing on, now I know they can't really see.
I think if you
Zoom in.
you'll
Okay. So just looking at the wheel, there are all these different aspects of life, right? So this black part, the physical and sexual violence, like that is your overt hitting, rape, all of those things, right? Then you have everything in the wheel. And so I'm just going to focus right now on the economic abuse. So this is really important, because everybody knows in this room at least one person affected by domestic violence. Okay, the numbers are staggering. So folks who use economic abuse, preventing them, I'm just going to change it to them because it can happen across all genders, preventing them from getting or keeping a job, making them ask, and it to validate women too, because it's staggering on vulva owners, right? So preventing them from keeping a job, making them ask for money, giving her an allowance, taking their money, not letting them know about or have access to family income. And there's like so many other different ways that this can play out. And so these are like red flags if you're in a relationship where this is happening. Seek help and talk to your friends about it to help you out of that situation. Emotional abuse, putting them down, making them feel bad about themselves, calling her names, like this is that it's different from the Four Horsemen. I mean, contempt can get ugly. Like if we're, cussing at people, like our people, like we need to stop doing that, but it happens. We all get flooded. But when this is constant, right? Gaslighting, making her think she's crazy, playing mind games, humiliating her, making her feel guilty. So those are just really, I mean, the whole wheel is just like good to know in general. So I just wanted to like put that out there. Any thoughts, feelings on power and control wheel? I can zoom in on anything that y'all want to see.
I know for me, even if I'm not experiencing a slice of the pie, I'm experiencing a slice of the pie because of the generations that came before me and the money stories that I'm carrying around that got passed down to me because of some hard experiences.
Yeah. That's that transgenerational, intergenerational trauma. Anyone else? Any thoughts? I don't know what it is. It is hard for a lot of therapists. I've just been doing it from the beginning, so it comes with ease for me.
Yeah.
I'm really good at separating it and doing my individual, and I always encourage my individuals, and when we do couples, like everything is confidential here.
Yeah.
And if this is something that is so burning for you, like for couples, like I encourage you to bring it up. I'm not going to bring it up for you.
Yeah.
And to help give them a voice and know how to use their voice, right? So I can do both. A lot of couples therapists do not want to do both.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There are good therapists out there.
There are.
You need to interview them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is like dating.
It's like we interviewed like 5 people and we picked our lady and we loved her, but we don't see her anymore.
Yes. She was right at the right time for y'all, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm imagining it was in the pandemic.
Yeah, it was just like, during the pandemic, and we had been wanting to, and then we just finally like, all right, we'll just do it. And then everyone's like virtual too, so if you have a job, like I think that's like, I don't know if you guys do virtual at your
I do hybrid, some yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so okay, hashtag relationship goals. Attachment theory, we all need to be seen, safe, soothed, and secure. These are childhood needs, never go away. What makes a lasting, healthy sexual relationship? Foundation of friendship. We want to trust and admire one another. Let's compliment our loved ones, right? Like, let's be friends, let's play games. Folks, again, my favorite word, prioritize. Look at that. Folks prioritize sex and financial conversations. They know it's important to the relationship and will make the time. Lastly, they prioritize one another's interests, desires, and pleasure rather than let society dictate what they should or shouldn't do. Don't compare and despair. Way to go, Sarah. And that's all. I don't know if we have time for Q&A.